Welcome to Press Box Live and our trade deadline extravaganza that will lead us into Orioles baseball here in Baltimore. I'm Stan the Fan from Press Box and PressBoxOnline.com. Luke Jackson is with us, the managing editor of Press Box, and of course, the old left-hander who knows a thing or two about pitching, Ross Grimsley. And Ross, I'm going to start with you. Before we really dig in, the Orioles made one significant trade. They acquired right-handed pitcher Jack Flaherty from the St. Louis Cardinals, gave up Cesar Prieto, an infielder, pitcher Drew Rom, and Mr. Showalter. What's his first name, Luke? I forget.
Zach Showalter.
Zach Showalter, also a pitching prospect who's a few years away from really being ready for big league baseball. But Luke tells me he's a pretty good prospect. But
Yeah.
all that above, I'm asking Ross Grimsley, when you saw Jack Flaherty a couple of years ago when he was in his prime, he's still not an old man. He's about 28 years old. What were your thoughts of Jack Flaherty back then?
Yeah, first seeing him with the Cardinals, he was very impressive. He threw strikes, good stuff around the plate with all his pitches, and he was very impressive. And then I know he's run into some injury situations. We talked about it off the air, and hopefully, if he's back from that, he could be a big help. He's pitched in the postseason before, so he's not it won't be something new to him. He could bring some a lot of help to the young pitchers probably. And I know I was listening to one of the general manager on the MLB talk about him. He didn't think it was a great move. He figured he'd be better off as a guy with a veteran staff. But, I think if he could get anywhere near where he was before, he could be a big help to this team. And at least they did something. I was great. That was good to see. And who knows what else could be on the horizon for him.
Luke, let me ask you a question. That best season he ever had was 2019 when he had a 2.75 ERA, 0.96 WHIP, 196 innings, 231 Ks.
Yep.
That's a while ago.
Right.
But this year, I know the ERA isn't eye-popping. I think it's 4.5. But his last 5 starts, he's got an ERA just a touch over 3. In 109 innings this year, he's made 20 starts, got 106 strikeouts. That to me says he's still got a live arm.
Right. And you touched on it, that they're betting that what he's done over the past month is more of the Jack Flaherty that the Orioles are going to get over the last 2 months. And they paid a pretty good price. And it makes you wonder, Cincinnati didn't get the starter they were looking for. I don't think the Dodgers got the starter they were looking for. That they might have had to pony up a pretty good package to get Flaherty to outbid a team like the Dodgers, who were rebuffed on Eduardo Rodriguez because he invoked his no trade clause. Like I said, the Reds didn't get their starting pitcher. But I think that the Orioles absolutely needed a starter, particularly given what we've seen from Tyler Wells after the All-Star break. And so, like I said, I think this is something they needed to do. They definitely overpaid, I would say, because that's what you do at the deadline. You're going to pay 115 cents on the dollar, so to speak, on anybody you get at the deadline. But they probably felt like this is something they had to do. I'm a little surprised that they didn't get a relief arm as well. I know, Stan, you mentioned Carlos Hernandez as a guy you liked. In last week's Zoom, I mentioned David Robertson as a candidate
who quickly went to Miami the next day.
I'm sure they had a lot of irons in the fire. Apparently they were in on Verlander. Apparently they were in on Dylan Cease. Apparently they were in on Eduardo Rodriguez. Verlander wanted to go back to Houston. He had a no trade clause, and so he directed himself to Houston. Eduardo Rodriguez did not move. And who was the other one that I mentioned?
We didn't mention.
Go ahead.
Who was it?
Oh, go ahead.
Dylan Cease was
Dylan Cease.
And the White Sox didn't move him. They were going to ask for the moon. And if they got the moon, they might have dealt him.
Right.
Get the one guy we didn't mention, and I think that Flaherty, I won't call him a fallback, but I think Mike Elias might have preferred Michael Lorenzen, who's pitched a little higher level all season this year, But I think he knew that there's Flaherty and I can go circle back and I
Right.
can make that deal. You think that's the way this went down? Because Lorenzen went about 2:00 this afternoon.
Right. He ended up going to the Phillies for a solid infield prospect. And I don't know who was more desirable on the trade market between Flaherty and Lorenzen. One thing I will say with Lorenzen is that he's pretty much at his innings high, single season innings high at this point, which is the same issue that the Orioles are having with 3 or 4 of their starters right now. So and with the Phillies, I think their idea is to maybe he can help them in the rotation right now. And as his innings start to pile up, maybe he can go to the bullpen. And if they make it to the playoffs, maybe he can help them in a multi-inning relief role, something like that. Pitching depth for them with a role to be determined, so to speak. So I think you could absolutely be right. I think the Orioles probably checked in on every available starter, and this was the fit. And it's like I said, it's probably a little bit of an overpay, but that's what you got to do at this time of year.
Ross, let me ask you a question. We saw, and the numbers weren't eye-popping, but we saw what Chris Holt did with Matt Harvey, okay, in the season he was with the Orioles. And if you look through the numbers and did a deep dive in it, he did some pretty artistic work with Chris Holt and brought him back to being more than serviceable for a stretch of time. This is a guy who's nowhere near on the trash heap that Matt Harvey was at that time. I gave you his numbers this year: 20 starts, 109 innings, 106 Ks. I think Chris Holt and him might develop a relationship that also allows for this to be more than a 2-month rental. I think this is a guy the Orioles could probably re-sign on a 2 or 3 year deal.
Very possible. I mean, we've seen what a lot of these pitchers have they came from backgrounds of not doing real well and having some, I guess some control problems, issues throwing strikes, and they have turned the corner on several guys. So this is something. I mean, he's thrown pretty well. I believe his last 5 starts, and hopefully you can take that, into the last couple months of the season. So yeah, the Orioles have done a good job with pitchers. It seems like. And I see no reason why he probably can't do something to possibly, increase his value maybe and to make him even better than he has been. So it'll be interesting to see, but they've had a pretty good track record so far, the Orioles, or pitching people. Done a good job.
And also you can look at the work they did with Jordan Lyles last year, who had a career year with the Orioles and went to Kansas City, and unfortunately for him is having a really rough go of it. So much so that I'm sure Kansas City didn't even get a bite on him at this deadline. So
they've been doing something right. That's it's showing. So hopefully it can continue.
So
let me just jump in with the next question then. Luke and I, and Ross, I know you agree with us that we thought that they would acquire another relief arm, but it seems like quietly they've been working getting DL Hall back up to speed, and he apparently, Luke, you reported today, or you told me today, he's going up to Norfolk, right?
Oh yeah. So he was in Sarasota for about 4, 5, 6 weeks trying to build back up his arm strength, and now he's reporting back to Norfolk in a relief role, which is something that you have been calling for as long as I've been the editor.
About 4 years. About 4 years.
About 4 years late, Stan.
I was a little ahead of Mike Elias on that one. Not that I'm ahead of him on a lot of things, trust me.
Right.
But I was ahead on this one. He could be a left-handed Fuji out of that bullpen right now, and that would relegate Yennier Cano to like the number 4 guy. This is an all-star this year, would be your number 4 guy in the bullpen behind Bautista, Fujinami, and DL Hall. That really is intriguing in the postseason when you're facing new teams and there could be some electricity in that bullpen.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And we also have to consider that Tyler Wells is right around his single season innings total. We saw him his first 3 starts out of the break seemingly hit a wall.
Yeah.
That there was no zip to his fastball, and his breaking stuff was soft, right? And so they sent him down to Bowie to recharge, and they'll probably take it easy on him. I would imagine he'll still be on a 5-day schedule, but not throw 6 or 7 innings, probably throw 2-3 innings to try to get that arm strength and arm speed back. And I wonder, once that happens, whether they put him in the bullpen, around September to give them another relief arm. And remember, John Means hopefully comes back before the season. Is he a bullpen option at that point as well? We'll see. John, unfortunately, has had some setbacks in his comeback from Tommy John, and he hasn't even pitched in a competitive game yet. So we don't.
There's
know,
no predicting how some different pitchers are going to come back from that. I know a lot of people were thinking, "Hey, he's the guy we'll pick up August 1st." That's not happening,
right? Right, and so they're going to have to figure out something with bullpen. I think what we have seen though is Cano is a little bit fatigued. He's never thrown this much in the major leagues ever. Probably never thrown this much in relief ever. So whether it's the major leagues or not. So I think based on what we saw yesterday with him walking 2 guys and giving up a home run, he's definitely going to need a blow now, a day off, 2 days off, 3 days off, whatever. And then I think you're absolutely right, Stan, that Fujinami might be that 8th inning guy now and not Cano. So, but we'll see.
You know what they're going to have to start doing is start getting these guys the starters able to pitch longer.
Yeah.
It starts in the minor league system with your guys.
Ross, can you take your camera and elevate it a little bit? Yeah, you're like,
I'm in the ditch.
I know. I got you.
You're really no. They're going to have to start getting these starters. I mean, the only way they're going to give you more innings is if they're trained to do that. And now guys aren't doing that. So now your bullpen suffers, and we saw it last year, seeing it again this year. So that's something that is going to have to be addressed at some point in time, because unless you're going to have a 25-man pitching staff. But the bullpen, some of the guys are going to have to start, and I said it before, and we've all said it, stepping it up in the middle relief, because if you don't do that, you're going to have the same situation. But the starters, somehow or another, in this day and age, you're going to have to start giving you more innings. And how are you going to do that?
Let me ask you, that's not something they can work on in calendar 2023. But, but having watched Kramer and Bradish this year, do you see any reason why both of them next season couldn't be 175, 185 inning pitchers?
You don't really know, because, the guys don't do it. This is something that will have to be done starting out and gradually, add to it each year. Yeah. Because if you just go right out to shoot and do it, the guys have never done it. The guys don't know how to pitch, the third and fourth time around the lineup. And that's almost your pitching staff is just getting wore down because they don't know how to do it. The relievers, they can't pitch every single night, because we're seeing what happens by doing that. So this is something that's going to have to be addressed. Or they're going to have to raise the rosters. So you have, instead of 13 or 14 pitchers, you're going to have 17 or 20.
And by the way, the Orioles aren't alone in this. Every team right now has several pitchers coming up against the wall. Look at Nathan Eovaldi, who's I think had 2 Tommy John surgeries, pitching as well as anybody. Luke, I'd have to ask, isn't it a little bit of malpractice that they allowed him, the Rangers, to pitch in the All-Star game? Well, they had to have known he was coming up somewhere near that wall.
And he had a couple starts in there, I think, prior to the All-Star game where his velo was down.
Yes.
And like you said, he has an extensive injury history. So yeah, they probably prefer. They could have said, "Hey, don't pitch in the All-Star game,"
right? But they didn't want to be the bad guys.
Yeah, you also want to do right by your guys. So, but in terms of what Ross is talking about, getting a little more out of starters, I think they're absolutely going to have to. And they had a couple of disappointing starts over the weekend against the Yankees. We discussed Tyler Wells. He pitched on Saturday. That did not go well. But Dean Kramer, he's given a 7-0 lead in the first inning. He gets 12 outs.
Yep.
And they have to exhaust their bullpen to get through that game. And then on, I think it's Monday, yesterday, they ended up using two guys for the third
They
time.
used Bautista for an inning
and
two
Bautista
thirds.
for 5 outs.
Yeah.
And he throws 35 pitches to get those 5 outs. And like Ross was saying, they're just leaning too much on that bullpen right now. And they've got to get a little more consistency out of CNL Perez, where you don't know what you're going to get out of him when that bullpen door opens. They got to get something more out of Brian Baker. I understand.
Well, I think I don't think they're going to be worrying about what they get out of Brian Baker, because I think he's going to be optioned or DFA'd. Somebody's got to go for Jack Flaherty, right?
It's a good point.
Yeah,
I don't think
I don't think there's any way Baker survives his spot on this roster. I guess technically they could send Crable down for Flaherty.
Oh yeah.
Okay, but DL Hall or Tyler Wells or whomever else they can add to that bullpen is going to take a place of Brian Baker. And look, Brian's been a good teammate. He was a nice story, but he's a guy that belongs on a second division team, and he can be perfectly fine when you're not trying to win a World Series.
It's about winning now. It's about winning.
Is there like a fly on your screen, Stan?
No, there's no fly on my screen.
I don't know what it was.
What the hell was that? All right, now it's gone. See, whatever I did, it's gone. I must have been getting so volatile close to the mic that I steamed the mic. The camera. Anyway, I think we hit the nail on the head. It's going to be Crable goes for Jack Flaherty, but when they either bring up Tyler Wells or add DL Hall, Brian Baker's not going to survive. He will not be on the postseason roster of the Baltimore Orioles.
So now, what is the story with Aiken and Givens?
Givens, I suppose, if a miracle occurred, like if I hit the Mega Millions tonight and win $1.2 billion, Michael Givens could come back and help this team. He's been like patient zero or patient X. Yeah. I don't know. He's done nothing for the team all year. It was, let's be honest, it was the worst move of Mike's career, and his 2 pitching moves during the offseason. I still have a belief in Cole Irvin, but clearly they don't. And if you don't have faith in a guy that you acquired 5 months ago, 6 months ago, shame on you a little bit.
That's crazy. He give you 6+ innings in Oakland, and now he can't do. He struggles a little bit.
Well, they haven't given him another start. They gave him 2 starts. He gave him 2 starts, and he pitched reasonably well. And I don't know. I don't understand it.
Yeah.
Given the situation, as Luke alluded to several times, with these other pitchers going, up to their innings limit, why in the world couldn't Cole Irvin be one of your 6?
He's might be somebody that does that. They might not have a choice. They may have to.
Yeah.
They may have to start him.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. Anyway, the Orioles, in case you're just tuning in, folks, and I guess nobody can just tune in at this point. I guess they can live on YouTube or Facebook Live. The Orioles did end up making a somewhat significant trade. I'm thumbs up on it. They traded Cesar Prieto, a Cuban pickup by the Orioles, an infielder who his numbers show pretty well. Drew Rom, a left-handed pitcher in the organization, and Zach Showalter, no relationship to Buck Showalter. So that's the Orioles pick up Jack Flaherty, right-handed pitcher of the St. Louis Cardinals. He's been in the big leagues since, I think, 2018. His high water mark was 2019. He went 11-8 with an 0.96 whip, 2.75 ERA, and 196 innings. That year, he struck out 231 batters, walked only 55 in the 196 innings, which isn't an only number, significant. but he did give up 25 home runs that year. But again, this year, 7-6 in 20 starts, ERA about 4.5. But in his last 5 starts, he's thrown in the last 5 starts, 29 2/3 innings, given up 10 runs, ERA just a touch over 3. And he struck out, I think, 26 guys in those 29 2/3 innings pitched. Are we all in agreement that this is a thumbs up move, or
Yeah.
are you and Luke, are you and Ross much more suspicious of
No,
it?
I mean, I'm thumbs up in that they had to do something. You
Right.
know, I mean, it's so the particular pitcher, honestly, I haven't watched enough Jack Flaherty over the years to have like a great opinion about him. I will say that it's interesting to me that the 2 pitchers that they picked up ahead of the deadline, Fuji a couple weeks ago and Flaherty today, both were pitching well in the 4 to 6 weeks leading up to the acquisition. And so that
Yep.
makes me think that maybe they pinpointed something that the pitchers did differently that led them to success, that made the Orioles think, okay, the more
We
recent
can work with
performance, we
this.
can work with this.
I
This is
think number
real.
one thing is they probably saw velo on both of these guys. I'm guessing that Flaherty can get it up, maybe not for 7 innings, but I think he can get it up to 97, 98.
Yeah, and
miles
I'll
an
tell you
hour.
what was really cool for me was the game on Friday against the Yankees, where Grayson Rodriguez started. I think he went at 6 1/3. And then they went to Cano, Kalum, and then Batista. Pretty much for 9 innings, they were throwing smoke in that game. And that's the kind of stuff that you need in a playoff game, in a playoff series, that you need those kind of arms in your pitching staff. And it took them a long time. It took them about almost 5 years to get to that point where they could play a game against the Yankees and have, 3 guys throughout the 9 innings throw, up to 100 miles an hour. So that was cool for me to see.
Guys, I got to jump in, and I was remiss at the outset by telling you that we are brought to you tonight, as always, by AJ Michaels, expert and award-winning AJ Michaels heating, air conditioning, plumbing, and home performance will improve your home's energy efficiency and comfort levels. The AC season is here. New rebates and discounts are available. More at ajmichaels.com. And always, we are brought to you by the Costas Inn, 4100 North Point Boulevard. They are a landmark restaurant in the area. Ross, when are you coming up again?
The 1st of October.
1st of October.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll watch a World Series game there.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
While we're eating crabs.
Well, wait a minute. The 1st of October will just be in the first round of the playoffs. But we'll go out there on a road game. And
Absolutely.
we'll watch a game and eat some crabs. Fantastic crabs. They're known throughout the land for their crabs, their crab cakes, crab soup. It's all great. If you are planning to do a crab excursion out there, call them at 410-477-1975, because you have to have a little bit of a plan. Order your crabs the size you want, the dollar figure you're willing to pay for them. Reserve your crabs in advance. Costas Inn, been there for 52 years, and just a wonderful place. You'll thank me later. Ross Grimsley, Luke Jackson, and I continue for a few more minutes. Who do you think, Luke, if you had one team that you thought really did well in this trading frenzy, who is that team?
Ooh. That's a good question. Ross, do you have an answer before me?
I think the White Sox traded a ton of guys away, and hopefully they got some people back.
Yeah,
Pretty decent.
Yeah, not from a buying perspective, but good on Steve Cohen and the Mets to pick a direction and be comfortable to pivot when something isn't working. And Cohen was comfortable paying down.
It was an expensive admission.
It was an expensive admission that what they did didn't work, but they were able to reload a lot of their farm system. And so, but good on them for at least picking a direction and being comfortable saying, okay, what we did didn't work. Let's not continue throwing good money after bad. Let's turn around this farm system. Let's continue to build internally and try again either next year or the year after. So I like a lot of what the Mets did. I know Mets fans have mixed opinions about seemingly going into a bit of a rebuild mode after they thought that they would be World Series contender this year, but things change fast in baseball, as Ross knows. So I kind of like what the Mets did, honestly.
But by the way, the Mets made a small deal. Remember, Luke, when I saw that the Dodgers had DFA'd Phil Bickford
Mhm.
when they picked up
Yeah.
Lance Lynn and Ronaldo Lopez, I think. No, it wasn't Lopez. They picked up Lance Lynn.
Yeah, I think you're right.
No, Lance Lynn.
Joe
but there was
Kelly.
and Joe Kelly.
Yeah.
They DFA'd, the Mets have picked him up in a trade now, Phil Bickford, who I thought could have helped the Orioles. He's a better version of Brian Baker, and I'm sorry to pound on Brian,
Yeah.
but you can tell I'm not a big fan.
It's about,
Very
it's
nice
about
guy.
winning, Stan. It's about
Very nice.
winning.
It's all about winning.
That's
That's
about,
exactly
that's
right.
it, man.
Orioles tonight are in Toronto. Do you think this trade, Ross, you know what trades do to the locker room? You think this gives them, does this give them a little jolt like our guys are trying? Because several players have mentioned, several players have mentioned how good the acquisition of Fujinami has been, or is going to be. You think this gives them a little jolt?
It shows that your ownership and your front office want to win.
Yeah.
And that's the big thing. And one of the things is, I know you ask a general manager, what do you want to do? You want to get to the playoffs? You want to get to the World Series? Or do you want to win the World Series? And the obvious answer is you want to win the World Series.
Yeah.
If you don't say that, then you have no business being a general manager.
Right.
I think, you're in it to win it, especially when you got a team like the Orioles, and they're capable of how crazy this sounds, but they have absolutely a chance of winning the World Series. Now, when they get some pitching, and there, who says that? I mean, there might be some guys they can pick up for a bag of nickels that they can and turn them into something and help them, a bullpen guy. I still think they're a bullpen or two away from really giving some people some problems. But
I think that bullpen arm is DL Hall. The more I think about it,
I mean, that's
really think
a possibility. And
Yeah.
Wells is not going to be able to start if they don't pitch him.
Right.
They don't give him innings. He's not going to be able to start. So he'll be a guy out of the pen. But you know what? Going from starting all year and last year to the bullpen after this guy is a starter now, and hopefully he don't go out there and the way baseball is now, the pitchers throw as hard as they can. The number one defense for a team is the swing and miss.
Yeah.
That's the number one, and everybody's and there's more injuries now than ever before, and these guys better be, in good shape and be able to handle that, the breaking ball from hell and the fastball as hard as you can throw it.
Hey, Luke. Hey, Luke, if nothing else tonight, I think we got the quote of the year from Ross Grimsley. Maybe we don't know who they could pick up for a bag of nickels. All right, guys.
As long as they don't get tallywhacked.
I'm going to. Hey, it's been a pleasure talking to you about this stuff. We'll be back next Monday, as far as I know, and we're going to try and aim to do this, I think, at 4:00. Is that okay with you guys?
Whenever you want to do it.
All
Really?
right, we're going to try and set the standard.
I'm up at 3:30 in the
4:00.
morning sometimes, so I can do it then too.
I could do it then too. We could hop on. You and I could hop on with a very different show.
Yeah.
Luke's a little too young to understand that, but anyway. Again, recapping, the Orioles, who made a trade about 3.5 weeks ago with the Oakland A's, they picked up Shintaro Fujinami, relief pitcher. But today they struck as the clock was fast approaching 6 o'clock. The Orioles traded infielder Cesar Prieto, left-handed pitcher Drew Rom, and Zach Showalter, a young Oriole pitcher, for Jack Flaherty, at one time the ace of this St. Louis Cardinals pitching staff. It's been a while, but it's not like he's 36 or 35,
Right.
36 years old. He's got a lot of tread left if he can stay healthy, and that's an important part of this. For Luke Jackson, Ross Grimsley, I'm Stan the Fan. We thank our friends at the Costas Inn as always, and we thank our friends at AJ Michaels Heating, AC, Plumbing, and Home Performance. Orioles on deck, not literally on our web presence, but the Orioles are starting up in just a few minutes. It's going to be Kyle Bradish against Yun Ryu tonight. What's the middle name?
Hyunjin Ryu.
Yunjin Ryu
Yeah,
is
you got it.
pitching tonight.
That guy.
Yeah, that guy that's been on the IL for much of the season. He's
Yeah.
like the late pickup for the Toronto Blue Jays. Anyway, we're out of here. Enjoy the game tonight. We'll be back. Gary Stein and I are in Thursday. We are going to have Kafir Ahmed from the Black and Gold.
Ahmed Gafir.
Ahmed Gafir.
There you go.
Did I say Kafir Ahmed?
Yeah.
Did I say it backwards?
You flip the names,
I
yes.
flip the names.
You're getting dyslexic.
I'm getting. I've been dyslexic, Ross, for a long time.
It's a big word for me.
That is a big word. Anyway, we'll have Ahmed Kafir Ahmed. No, it's Ahmed. We've got the guy from the blackandgold.com is going to join us and talk about Terps football season coming up and basketball recruiting as well. Luke, what's his name? All right, we're
He's
out
a
of
great
here.
kid. He's a great kid.
Great kid. And I'll know his name Thursday night, I guarantee you, at 7:00. All right, bye for now. Bye.